There is a piece of paper sitting on a mahogany desk in the financial district of Kingston, Jamaica. Right now, that is causing more panic than a hurricane warning. It is not a foreclosure notice, it is not a sanction from the United States government, and it is not a threatening letter from a local gang leader. It is a bill, a literal invoice calculated with mathematical precision and stamped with the official seal of the Alliance of Sahel, states sent directly from the office of Captain Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso to the headquarters of the foreign-owned banks that have dominated the Caribbean economy for centuries. The headline you are seeing is real. The 400-year debt has finally been called in for generations. The narrative has been that Africa and the Caribbean owe money to the West. We are told that we are in debt to the IMF. We are in debt to the World Bank, and we are in debt to the Paris Club. We are told that we must cut our healthcare budgets and starve our schools to pay the interest on loans that were forced upon us by our former colonizers. But Captain Ibrahim Traoré has flipped the script. He has done the math that no other leader dared to do. He has calculated the value of the gold, the diamonds, the uranium, and the human labor that was extracted from the continent and the islands without payment for 400 years. And he has come to a terrifying conclusion. The West does not own us. We own them. The debt is not ours. The debt is theirs. And Traoré has decided that collection day is today. This video is going to explain exactly what is inside that bill, why the banking elite in Kingston are currently shredding documents and holding emergency meetings, and why Prime Minister Andrew Holness is terrified that the Jamaican people are about to realize that their poverty is not a mistake, but a robbery that is still in progress right now. To understand the magnitude of this move, we have to look at the architecture of the banking system in the global South. When you walk into a bank in Jamaica or Barbados or Trinidad, you see a local face behind the counter and you see palm trees in the logo. But make no mistake, these are not local institutions. They are subsidiaries of the same financial giants that operate in London, Toronto, and New York. They are the modern-day East India Company. They are the colonial outposts that suck the wealth from the island and transfer it to the vaults of the global north. For decades, these banks have operated with impunity. They charge exorbitant fees to poor market women just to hold their own money. They pay near zero interest on savings while charging 20% or more on loans. And most importantly, they act as the gatekeepers, preventing local businesses from growing without foreign permission. Captain Traoré knows this system inside and out. Before he was a revolutionary leader, he studied geology, and he studied the mechanisms of resource extraction. He knows that you cannot steal gold without a bank to launder it. He knows that you cannot drain a country's wealth without a financial pipeline. And he has identified Kingston, Jamaica, as a critical node in this pipeline. The bill that Traoré sent is not just a demand for money. It is a demand for the return of physical assets, specifically gold reserves, that were transferred from West Africa to the Caribbean during the colonial era to back the currencies of the empire. Historians have long known that when the British Empire abolished slavery, they paid millions of pounds in compensation. Not to the enslaved people, but to the slave owners. That money, that blood money, was used to establish the very banks that rule Jamaica. Today, Traoré's argument is simple legally and morally, that capital belongs to the descendants of the stolen people. He is arguing that every dollar of profit made by these colonial banks since 1834 is fruit of the poisonous tree, and he is demanding it back with interest. The figure is in the trillions, but Traoré is not asking for a wire transfer. He is asking for the liquidation of their assets in the Sahel and the immediate repatriation of the gold backing those assets. This is a strategic masterstroke. By attacking the banks in Jamaica, he is striking at the soft underbelly of the neo-colonial beast. He knows that the Caribbean is where the West hides its dirty money. He knows that the offshore accounts in the region are filled with the plunder of the African continent. By demanding an audit and a repayment, he is forcing the Jamaican government to choose a side. And this is where Andrew Holness finds himself in a nightmare scenario. The Prime Minister of Jamaica is caught between a rock and a hard place on one side. He has his masters in Washington and London who are telling him to ignore Traoré, to block the letter, and to pretend that this is all just the raving of a madman on the other side. He has the people of Jamaica who are waking up. The streets of Kingston are buzzing with the news. People are looking at their bank statements and realizing that they have been scammed for decades. They are asking why their dollar loses value every day. While the foreign banks post record profits, they are asking why they have to beg for a loan to build a house on their own land. If Holness sides with the banks, he proves once and for all that he is an overseer, not a leader. If he sides with Traoré, he risks the wrath of the entire Western financial system, collapsing the fragile Jamaican economy that is addicted to foreign loans. But Traoré did not just send a bill, he sent a solution along with the demand for repayment. The document outlines the framework for a new banking system. The AES Investment Bank, based on the gold standard, not the fiat dollar. Traoré is offering the Caribbean nations a way out. He is saying, break ties with the colonial banks that are bleeding you dry, and join us in a new financial architecture, backed by the actual resources of the African continent. Imagine a world where a Jamaican business owner can trade directly with a partner in Burkina Faso, without their money having to pass through a bank in New York. Imagine a world where the savings of the Caribbean people are backed by the gold of the Sahel, rather than the empty promises of the Federal Reserve. This is the vision that Traoré is selling, and it is a vision that is incredibly dangerous to the status quo. The panic in Kingston is real. Sources inside the major financial institutions report that there has been a massive spike in capital flight. In the last 48 hours, the elite are moving their money out of Jamaica, not because they fear Traoré will invade, but because they fear the Jamaican people will listen to him. They fear a run on the banks. They fear that the average depositor will walk into the branch and demand to withdraw their funds to send them to the new system Traoré is building. This is the power of the truth when it is weaponized. The colonial banking system relies on confidence. It relies on the people believing that there is no alternative. It relies on the illusion that the West is the only source of stability. Traoré has shattered that illusion. He has shown that the emperor has no clothes and that the banker has no gold. The bill is also symbolic of the 400-year debt that can never truly be repaid with money. How do you put a price on a stolen history? How do you calculate the interest on millions of lives lost in the Middle Passage? Traoré knows that the West can never pay the full amount, but by sending the bill, he is reclaiming the dignity of his people. He is saying, we are not beggars, we are creditors. The world runs on our resources. The global economy was built on our backs, and we are done asking for charity. We are demanding what is ours. Let's look closer at the connection between the Sahelian gold and the Caribbean banks for years. Investigative journalists have tracked the illicit flow of gold from Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Much of this gold is smuggled out, refined in Switzerland or Dubai, and then enters the global banking system as financial assets. These assets often end up on the balance sheets of banks operating in tax havens in the Caribbean. Essentially, the wealth of Africa is being used to prop up the economies of the islands, while the people of both regions remain poor. Traoré has cut this cord by nationalizing the mines in the Sahel and taking control of the refining process. He is starving these banks of their fresh supply of stolen capital. The ripple effects are already being felt in Kingston. Liquidity is drying up. Loans are being called in, and the bankers are sweating. They know that without the cheap flow of African resources, their business model collapses. This is why they are pressuring Wholeness to denounce Traoré, to call him a terrorist, to ban his officials from entering Jamaica. But the Jamaican people are not buying it. They see a man in a red beret who speaks the truth, and they compare him to the politicians in suits who speak in riddles. The concept of the Colonial Bank is crucial here. We are not talking about ancient history. We are talking about institutions that exist today under different names. Banks that were founded in the 1800s specifically to facilitate trade between the colonies and the motherland. Their structure has not changed. Their purpose is to extract value, not to create it. They take deposits from the locals and lend that money to foreign corporations to build hotels that the locals cannot afford to stay in. They finance the import of foreign food that destroys local agriculture. Traoré is calling for a boycott of this entire system. He is urging the diaspora, the millions of Jamaicans living in the US, UK, and Canada, to stop sending their remittances through these predatory channels. He is building a blockchain-based alternative that bypasses the SWIFT system entirely, allowing money to flow freely between the children of Africa wherever they are. This is the ultimate threat because remittances are the lifeblood of the Caribbean economy. If Traoré controls the flow of remittances, he effectively controls the economy. The bill sitting on that desk in Kingston is a ticking time bomb. If Wholeness ignores it, he looks weak if he acknowledges it. He admits the system is rigged, so he stays silent, hoping the news cycle will move on, but Traoré is not letting it move on. He is releasing daily updates exposing more details of the theft, naming specific banks, citing specific transactions. He is conducting a public audit of the neo-colonial empire, and he is broadcasting it live on social media. The youth of Jamaica are glued to their screens. They are learning more about economics from a soldier in Burkina Faso than they ever learned in school. They are learning that debt is a weapon of war and that for 400 years they have been on the losing side. But the tide is turning. The psychological impact of this move cannot be overstated. For centuries, we have been trained to think of ourselves as debtors, as people who owe something to the white man. Traoré is deprogramming us in real time. He is teaching us to walk with the swagger of a creditor, to look the banker in the eye and say, "Where is my money?" This shift in consciousness is more dangerous to the empire than any army, because once a people realize they are owed, they stop begging and start taking the reaction. From the international community has been predictable silence from the mainstream media, followed by quiet threats. The U.S. ambassador to Jamaica has reportedly held closed-door meetings with government officials, likely warning them of the consequences of engaging with the AES. But threats only work when you have something to lose. The people of Jamaica have nothing left to lose. The cost of living is unbearable. The violence is spiraling and the dream of prosperity is dead. They look at Traoré and they see hope. They see a man who defied the odds and won. They see a path to dignity. So what happens next? The bill has been delivered. The deadline for a response is approaching. The banks can try to hide the assets. They can try to cook the books, but they cannot hide from the awakening of the people. Traoré has lit a fuse that runs under the Atlantic Ocean and connects the savannas of the Sahel to the beaches of the Caribbean. The explosion is inevitable. It will not be an explosion of violence, but an explosion of justice. The 400-year debt is about to be settled. Not with a handshake, but with a revolution of the mind and the wallet. The colonial banks have two choices: pay up or pack up, because the landlord has returned, and he is wearing a red beret and holding a ledger written in the blood of our ancestors. The time for excuses is over. The time for payment is now history. We'll record this moment as the turning point, the moment when the global South stopped asking for permission and started demanding restitution. The bill is on the desk. The world is watching and the clock is ticking. For the first time in 400 years, the power is in our hands. Do not let go, do not look away. Stand with Traoré, stand with the truth, and demand that the debt be paid in full. This is not just about money. This is about the restoration of the soul of the Black nation. The bill is not just an invoice. It is a declaration of independence. And it is signed by Ibrahim Traoré. But it is endorsed by every single one of us who has ever felt the weight of the chains. The chains are breaking, the vault is opening, and the truth is coming out. Get ready, because the transfer of wealth is about to begin, and it is flowing in the right direction for the first time in history.